uranium fever has gone and got me down. Uranium.
The little boy atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima made a major contribution to ending World War II by delivering a unique, devastating psychological shock that contributed to Japanese surrender, preventing a costly Allied land invasion, and saving countless lives on both sides of the war. In June of 1942, the United States government assembled an elite team of scientists and engineers with one common goal: build an atomic bomb before Nazi scientists, codename Manhattan Project. The great minds that made up this project included Robert J. Oppenheimer, Enrico Fermi, Leo Szilard, and Richard Feynman. The government set up 3 main development sites across the United States for the Manhattan Project. These facilities were located in Los Alamos, New Mexico, Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and Hanford, Washington, splitting over 130,000 workers, engineers, and scientists between all the facilities. At the Los Alamos facility, scientists such as Oppenheimer, Enrico Fermi, Leo Szilard, Richard Feynman worked to build the first atomic bomb. Each scientist had their own job. Enrico Fermi covered the theory and calculations, ensuring that the math was correct. Many draftsmen, machinists, and many mechanical/electrical engineers worked to design and produce the engineering drawings that would be used to make the bomb. In addition, theoretical scientists at Los Alamos proposed plates of enriched uranium-235 spaced apart as the atomic charge. The only thing keeping it from pre-detonation was a thin boron layer. Meanwhile, in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, uranium-235 was being enriched at a wide scale, preparing to construct the little boy's atomic charge. All that was left to do was to manufacture the shell and other mechanical parts that took place at many separate facilities across the country, ensuring that if one facility gets damaged in some way, that they would still have all their work left on the bomb. The little boy was now ready to deploy. As pressures in the Pacific increased, a land invasion on Japan was imminent, so the government decided to play their most destructive card, the little boy. On August 6, 1945, a convoy of 4 planes flew over Hiroshima. At the back of the pack was a strike plane carrying the deadly charge. In front flew 2 escort planes. 3 weather reconnaissance planes were an hour ahead of the pack, taking crucial measurements from Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and Korea. As the clock struck 8:15, a mechanical click and whir came from the strike plane as its bay doors had opened, and the bomb was being set into position. As the plane got 10,000 pounds lighter, all 6 planes pulled blackout sheets over the windows. They were flying dark. The pilots made sharp 120-degree turns, pushing the planes to their limits, trying to get as far away from the blast as possible. At 8:16, the bomb detonated on Hiroshima, and a massive nuclear blast sent the city into ruins. The little boy had done his job, causing a fracture in Japanese parliament, weakening trust in the government. As the bomb dropped, the United States sparked a major revolution in warfare. Before April 6, 1945, warfare was guns and bombs, but as the news of the destruction reached the world, many countries scrambled to make, buy, and produce nukes, hoping their vast nuclear supply would discourage attacks. Today, the threat of nuclear fallout dwindles over our heads, and many leaders see it as an intimidation tool. After the bombing, the Japanese government held various meetings, deliberating if they could continue fighting the war. After sending a representative to judge the destruction, the ultimate decision was to keep fighting, although the government was divided, with many politicians urging to end the war to avoid further destruction. Here is a message from the former Prime Minister of Japan.
However, should emotions run high and lead to rash actions, if fellow citizens turn against each other, disrupt the order of society, or tarnish the nation's honor by violating international trust, we would be profoundly saddened. We urge you, our subjects, to unite as one family, pass on our unshakable faith in the eternal destiny of our homeland to future generations. Devote your efforts to rebuilding the nation, uphold moral integrity, strengthen your will, and strive to enhance the national character, ensuring that Japan does not fall behind in the progress of the world. Understand well our intentions and act accordingly. Sealed with the imperial sign and seal, August 14, 1945. Prime Minister Baron Kantaro Suzuki.
Many countries, including the United States, United Kingdom, China, Canada, and Korea, supported the use of the atomic bomb, viewing it as a necessary step to end the war as quickly as possible. Leaders and citizens in these nations believed that deploying the bomb was the only realistic way to bring their soldiers home safely. especially as Japan showed no signs of surrendering despite the mounting losses. Supporters argued that the bomb ultimately saved millions of lives by preventing a prolonged conflict and avoiding a full-scale land invasion of Japan, which military officials predicted would result in catastrophic casualties for both Allied forces and Japanese civilians. For those countries, the bomb was not only seen as a military tool, but as a decisive measure to end years of brutal warfare. However, nations such as Japan, the Soviet Union, and the Vatican, along with various other neutral countries, viewed the atomic bomb with immense fear, ethical and moral objection. They argued that such destruction was a clear violation of international law. Beyond the immediate tragedy, many feared that this new atomic age, smaller nations without nuclear capabilities would find themselves at the mercy of the atomic bomb, fundamentally shifting the global responsibility for maintaining peace. The destruction the atomic bomb had forced a global reform in how many nations balance their responsibility of self-defense and humanity. In the years following 1945, the world agreed on a series of reforms and regulations put in place on testing and using atomic bombs. The creation of the International Atomic Energy Agency marked a global shift toward the responsibility of atoms for peace. It ensured that nuclear technology was used for energy and medicine rather than just destruction. After years of rights being exercised to test weapons in the atmosphere, the Partial Test Ban Treaty reformed prohibited nuclear testing underwater, in outer space, and in the atmosphere to protect the environment and public health from radiation. The Non-Proliferation Treaty is one of the most significant reforms in nuclear history, creating legal responsibility for nuclear-armed nations to move toward disarmament, while non-nuclear nations agreed to not acquire them. Movement toward reform continues into the 21st century with the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which argues that the right to possess nuclear weapons is outweighed by the responsibility to prevent a humanitarian catastrophe. Today, the legacy of the Manhattan Project remains a paradox. It was a triumph of science that birthed a nightmare of ethics. But in that flash over Hiroshima, the world learned a lesson that it hasn't yet forgotten. That our capacity to destroy is only matched by our responsibility to survive. The revolution sparked the world to grow up in an instant. We moved from race to destruction to global responsibility and regulation. We established the IAEA and signed treaties to keep our atmosphere clear of radiation, transforming the right to bear arms into a collective responsibility to preserve the species. The little boy was more than just a weapon. It was a pivotal point in human history, delivering a shock so devastating that it fractured Japanese high command, bringing a definite end to the war that had already claimed 60 million lives. It traded the certainty of a bloody land invasion for the dawn of an uncertain atomic age.